come a moment when you have the chance to do the right thing.
I love those moments. I like to wave at them as they pass by.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
And today's podcast, we're covering the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Dead Man's Chest.
Yes, this movie focuses on Jack Sparrow's debt to Davy Jones, which comes back to haunt him as both the ghastly pirate and the kraken are on the hunt for him. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notification for the future podcasts and want to pause videos.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing our videos, commenting. We hope you're enjoying your summer. As always, we appreciate you so much.
Yes.
Now, this was before the kraken became a trope.
Yes. I mean, everywhere, everyone's got a kraken. It's like, it means nothing now.
Right. And we know you've got to know about this, but just in case you don't, this is a movie that came out in 2006, fantasy swashbuckler film, directed by Gore Verbinski, written by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, who was still making great movies. Mm-hmm. And as we mentioned, it's the sequel to Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, that came out 3 years prior. Mm-hmm. And this was the second of 4 films?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, you're right. I think it was 4, then later 5 became a 5th film with the... Oh! Yes, out of 4 films, this was the second one. And it seems like this one is the most memorable one out of the movies. When we're on Twitter /X or YouTube or other places, when we see people talk about the movies, they have a range of how they feel about the film. Some love them all, some like specific ones. But it seems like to us that the favorite or the most popular one out of the saga is Dead Man's Chest. And I think a heavy reason is because of Davy Jones himself, and also the scale of it being even bigger than the first movie. And this was back when they were making live action movies with a high budget, but they used the budget to their advantage, and they did a great job in telling the story and the visual effects and the cinematography and everything.
Absolutely. Now, you know how good this movie is, and this is when Disney didn't have the people that are there now, and they were doing a great job. Music still by Hans Zimmer, who did an excellent job on every soundtrack, even the movies when they went down in quality.
Yes.
This movie had a budget of $225 million. As you mentioned, a big budget. Now they do $200 million, and the movies are terrible. But here's the point. Animated. This 151-minute movie had a box office of $1.066 billion.
Yes! Back when the $1 billion movie was very believable for Disney to get quickly.
And back when they understood, if you give us what we want, we'll give you our money. We'll throw you our money. Take it. But now it's not about the company actually making money. It's more about agendas and politics.
And make sure they get that movie out on the day they want it.
So it's very wonderful that we can sit and not only continue to watch these movies because we own them, but now we can talk about them with you and find out how much you love them in the comments.
Right. And one of the biggest things before we get to the story itself is that it says $225 million. Well, you can tell they spent that money very well, besides the fact that it's a over 2 hour movie. Close to 3 hour movie. Had a big cast, lots of people involved. The effects on Davy Jones were fantastic back when they were giving the special effects people time to make the effects on the characters look realistic and interesting. And it would be also the choreography of the movie, because one thing I noticed when we were watching is that, you know, they always have the swashbuckling thing in it and their sword fights, but they had them on a grander scale in this movie, and they were getting creative each time they did the fight scenes. And it looked like they were trying to go all out on it and make it even grander than the first movie by having them do stunts and things you would probably see them do in animation.
Yeah, definitely. It was a fun movie. And part of what made it enjoyable is they brought back the same cast of the main characters. They didn't replace anyone like they do now. You had Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, and of course Johnny Depp brought back, and then some of the ones who played pirates before that hadn't been killed or their time was done in the movies. They brought them back, and it was fantastic. It was wonderful. Bringing back the characters you're familiar with, letting us see more adventures. I think that is one of the reasons that this particular series until the 5th movie was beloved.
Yes.
Because you got to see these characters over and over. You got to see them grow or backtrack and have to, you know, make themselves honorable again.
Yes.
You got to see them change in terms of their thinking.
Yes.
You got to see more about their backstories, their lives revealed. Each movie, it made it great. Now, later on, you had other actors who came in, like Penelope Cruz in one. But you still had the other actors there. And that is what makes this seem so familiar. Every time from 1 through 4 that you were seeing a new movie, you were just ready because you were like, okay, I know this movie. I know these people. Let's see what they're doing now. You were excited.
Yes. And it was worth the wait to see each film. 3 years sounds like a lot now, but back then, it was worth the wait to see the next film because not only were they taking their time with it, they were actually writing a good story and making a good movie, making an interesting villain, interesting plot. Everything was worth your money and worth your time. Now they just try to spit as many movies out as they can every single year, and they don't care what happens or what you gotta do. Just get out on this specific date that we say.
True.
And we can't imagine what it's gonna be like for the next movie or reboot or whatever, because you're not going to top any of these films, especially Dead Man's Chest.
And especially when you're putting all women in the leads. You don't want that. Not because anyone's misogynist, which we can't be because we're women, or because the men are misogynist or anything like that. You want the same characters you know and love.
Right.
And somehow the execs at Disney and Marvel don't get this. They keep acting as if everyone is easily replaceable. Well, guess what? They're not. And that's why you're going to keep failing and not getting our money, because you don't give us what we want. Now back to this movie. Dead Man's Chest premiered at the Disneyland Resort.
Oh, wow, that's
June 24th.
smart.
Yes. Again. And they were released in the entire U.S. on July 7th. They got mixed reviews, but no one cared because people loved the movie.
Right.
And the film broke several records at the time, including the opening weekend record in the U.S. with $136 million. And it was the fastest film to gross over $1 billion at the time.
Yes.
In 63 days. And it became the highest grossing film of 2006 and the third highest grossing film of all time of its release. And I think that was broken by Toy Story 3 in 2010. And it received 4 nominations at the 79th Academy Awards, winning Best Visual Effects.
Wow, well, they earned it.
Yes. So, back to the movie itself and the characters. You had William Turner learning more about whom he truly was, and his backstory.
Yes.
And we got to learn more about Jack Sparrow.
Yes.
Because one of the questions at the end of the movie was, I want to know more about Jack Sparrow.
Right.
Because you really didn't find out anything. You were just introduced to him the first one, and you fell in love with him.
Right.
This movie, you got to learn more about whom he was as a person.
Right. And the trailer they kept posting, the question they kept posting in the trailer was, what could possibly scare Jack Sparrow? Because it looked like he was fearless, or he was too stupid to be fearing anything or something. And you get your answer in here with Davy Jones, because he made a deal with him, and he's been, you didn't know until then, running from him for years, and it looks like he's finally caught up. And he had made this deal where they took Davy Jones' heart and put it in a chest. And he couldn't feel any emotion. He had no empathy, no emotion. He felt guilt for nothing, because the further away his heart was, the more cold he was. And people are pointing out when the heart was getting closer to him, he could feel things again. He was feeling empathy. He could feel sadness. He wasn't cold-hearted, pun intended, anymore. And he was desperate to get it back, because he had been waiting now decades to get what was stolen from him. And that became a really the most interesting part of the movie, seeing that journey and how will they stop this guy and a almost ghostly pirate crew, which all look like they all got barnacles on them. I think they're half fish.
Now, what was really smart they did in addition was the first trailer was attached to the Chronicles of Narnia movie.
Oh, yeah, another big one.
They also released a comic book adaptation in the Junior Graphic Novels.
Really?
Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest in 2007. Again, this is when they were smart about marketing and merchandising. And they had it everywhere, and they didn't reveal the whole story. They didn't reveal everything in the trailer.
Right.
They didn't have a standard cookie-cutter trailer with the same stupid music and the same stupid order. making you not even watch the trailer. This is when the trailers were all different, and they made you excited of what was to come.
Yes.
This is truly the second heyday for Disney.
Yes.
When these movies were out.
Yes, 2000s definitely.
And when you learn more about William Turner, you also appreciated him more as a character.
Yeah.
Again, in the first movies, you didn't really know much about them except for
his quest, really. The main quest of the first movie was to get the woman he loved back.
And you knew more about Swan.
Right.
Elizabeth Swan. And you got to learn more about them. And then you got to see how her father was.
Yeah.
Because first they said they were going to let him go. Then they changed their mind.
Yeah.
And the people he was working with, they weren't trustworthy. They're supposed to be honorable.
Yeah, especially right. The movie starts with that, right?
Yeah. And so it was just great the way the story unfolded. And then when you finished, you were still left with a bit of a cliffhanger.
Yes.
You knew there was going to be another one. Even if you hadn't read about it or heard about it, you knew there was going to be another one. They passed over $1 billion. They're going to make another movie. And we know they're going to make this movie exciting.
Right.
Which they did.
And one more thing I need to bring up is, yet again, the special effects all across the board. The cinematography, the effects on Davy Jones, the effects on the ship, make it look like they were in another place or plane for a while. And actually a lot of people ended up praising that later recently online, was they were kind of just fascinated by how his entire body was animated, especially the tentacles on his face, and how everything was intricate, and someone had worked on it, explained every single one had its own animation, so it was always one person per thing to make it look like everything was intentional.
Right.
And they were saying, like, how could they have this type of animation and effects in the 2000s, and we get to hear, and they run them into the ground. They don't want to pay. They tell them to change things 10 to 15 times a day to the point they want to quit. And then when you see the finished product, it looks like it's not done still.
Well, I think because, one, they were using a lot of the technology they used in their theme parks. And they were applying that to the movie to get the same type of effects like the haunted house and things, which was brilliant again. Right. So let's give a shout out, since you mentioned, to the cinematographer, Darius Wolski, editors, Craig Wood, Stephen Rifkin, and the production companies, Walt Disney Pictures, Jerry Bruckheimer Films. And last but not least, let's give a shout out to the cast. Johnny Depp, of course, is Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yes.
Orlando Bloom is William Turner. Keira Knightley is Elizabeth Swan. Stellan Skarsgård is William Bootstrap Bill Turner.
Yeah.
Bill Nighy is Davy Jones. Jim Broadbent. They messed with some other people too. Sorry about that. Dave Davenport is James Norton. Kevin McNally is Joshua Gibbs. Jonathan Pryce is Governor Weatherby Swan. And again, you learn the type of man he was in this movie.
Right.
You also had Lee Ehrenberg, Mackenzie Crook, Tom Hollander. Naomi Harris is Tia Dalma, and that's the one I always remember and keep thinking she's in the other. She was in the first movie, but she wasn't. She was in the second. She was the Obia priestess.
Yes.
Who Jack bartered for with his magic compass.
Yes.
And she appears actually in the manga very terribly.
Yeah.
And also in the light novel.
Yes.
Last few: David Schoenfeld, Martin Kelba, David Bailey, Alex Norton, John Boswell, Derek O'Connor, and Jeffrey Rush, who we can't forget, is Hector Barbosa, the former captain of the Black Pearl, his former first mate, and he really did a fantastic job.
Yes, absolutely. So the all-star cast, and it was worth the money and worth the time to go see this movie, and worth the wait. They made you anticipate seeing more of this franchise every time.
Yes. So if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, the second movie,
Dead Man's Chest,
let us know in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you find it, man? We know you loved it. Tell us why in the comments. And out of these 4 movies, I'm not counting the 5th one, which are your favorite? Is it the second like we think?
Right.
If not, tell us below and why. And if you haven't seen it, oh my gosh, you are just missing out. You need to watch all 4 movies.
Yes.
Make it a day. Watch all 4. Enjoy. Come back and tell us what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates of weekly videos for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation, and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us, taking time of your fun and busy summer for our podcast. As always,
you are special. Thank you so much for watching, Mascot Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.